Grid cells. It's a group of neurons found in the entorhinal cortex, a structure which sends its connections to the hippocampus, and together they form a system for spatial navigation. They provide a coordinate system for the brain. The environment is tiled with hexagonal grids of different scale and orientation. Each single grid cell is firing extensively when the animal is at any of the vertices of this grid. And these patches of ground where neuron is the most active are called the firing fields of that cell. Grid cells that are physically located close to each other in the brain usually have the same orientation and the same scale of this grid. It's just that their firing fields are shifted with respect to one another. In this case, they are said to belong to the same module. Cells that are more distant and have the different scale and orientation thus belong to a different module. And this modular organization allows the brain to uniquely decode the animal's position in space by converging the signals from different modules, because the activity of a single grid cell provides ambiguous information about position. Active firing of this neuron can either mean that the animal is here, or basically anywhere on the vertices of the grid. However, if we are also receiving the signals from cells of a different module, we can superimpose the firing fields and pinpoint the exact location. Supposedly, this mechanism is used further down the line in the hippocampus to translate the activity of grid cells into place cell activity to encode the exact location within the environment. What's so interesting about grid cells is the collective behavior of all of the cells in the same module would give us this. Yep, there is a torus hidden in the activity of grid cell network. As the animal moves in the environment, tracing some path, it nicely maps to a smooth, continuous trajectory of population activity along this torus. If you look at the firing pattern of a single individual grid cell, which, remember, on the plane the firing fields were arranged in a regular periodic hexagonal grid, it would be localized on a single patch of this torus. Consequently, a different grid cell from the same module corresponds to a different patch. Information one module gives, basically one grid coordinate, is the position along the torus. This means that the brain uses these toroidal coordinates to map the position in space. What's even more fascinating is that this torus is invariant to exact environment and even the brain state. Taking an individual grid cell and looking at its activity in different environments, which by the way looks totally different to our eyes, in fact corresponds to the same patch of this population activity torus. The network activity is localized on the same torus even when the animal is sleeping. All of this demonstrates that this toroidal structure emerges independently of incoming sensory information. It is intrinsic to the network, arising from specific connectivity of neurons and the weight of synapses between them. This concept is known in theoretical neuroscience as continuous attractor network, when connectivity restricts underlying dynamics, causing it to be localized only to a subset of all possible states.